So welcome everyone. My name is Sisu Bahane. I'm one of two partner success managers. I'm based in London, and welcome to the third and final day of the Partner Summit. I'm delighted to be kicking off with two of my favorite topics today, fundraising and data-driven approaches. Another one or two housekeeping items, and please make sure that your camera is switched off unless you are speaking. We can come off camera for the Q&A at the end. We'll do our best to make sure that we save enough time for a Q&A, but we've only got 30 minutes. So in the event that we do run out of time, please join us on Discord, where Jens and Gregor will be happy to answer a few of your questions, as will I. So let's get started. Over to you, Jens and Gregor.
Thank you, Sisu. Hi, welcome everybody. This is a joint session of getunik and RaiseNow, and it's called Demystifying Data-Driven Fundraising. My name is Gregor Nilsson, and I'm the Managing Director of getunik. And today with me, I have Jens.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Jens Koros. I'm the Product Manager for the Fundraising Automation product line here at RaiseNow.
So first things first, you might already be familiar with the forward-looking statement of Salesforce. I'll just give you some seconds to read it carefully. And I think that we then can move on to our presentation.
Right. So RaiseNow is a software as a service company. We focus solely on NPOs. We were founded in 2015. We have 3 offices in Europe, close to 60 employees working worldwide. Remote office has been very, very good to us. And our latest edition just moved to Australia. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, and getunik is a digital-first fundraising agency based in Zurich and Berlin. Same as RaiseNow, we mainly focus on nonprofit clients. We're certified Salesforce Marketing Cloud specialists, and we're one of the largest RaiseNow implementation partner. So I think we have quite a good expertise on both platforms, and we're happy to share some of our insights today with you. We promised some real-world results. So before we go over to the actual demo of the session, I just want to give you a short glimpse of what we achieved with some of our clients. For example, with the Swiss Paraplegic Foundation, we managed to raise the retention rate by 1.5%. The Paraplegic Foundation has 1.1 million members in Switzerland, so it's one of the largest membership associations. We increased the revenue by 18% through the website, and we also created a lead nurturing series, which currently converts 10.6% of all leads to paying members. We also work with WWF in Germany, and we set up some automated series for the peer-to-peer fundraising platform, which ended in an increase of 95% of the donations coming through the platform. Salvation Army is also one of our clients, and together with them, we increased the revenue through the website by 210%. One interesting thing we did in terms of data-driven fundraising, we use personalized donation asks on the website, which has increased the average donation by 5%. And the email list also has grown significantly by 300%. Then last but not least, one of my favorites is FairMet. FairMet is a small organization which is mainly funded by paying donors, recurring donors from face-to-face campaigns. And we set up an automated follow-up for those donors, where we actually collected data on the street through a tablet, which was then pushed to the marketing automation platform. And with this retention journey, the retention rate was increased by 10%. So that was just as a short introduction, what can be achieved with data-driven fundraising.
Right. So RaiseNow has been engaged as an ISV in the Salesforce universe since 2018. And as a payment facilitator and provider of touchpoint solutions, our third pillar is integrations with third-party systems. And regarding those implementations, we have some core convictions that we try to follow in every implementation. So the first one is we try to eliminate manual processes wherever possible, right? We automate as much as we can. We try to avoid things like CSV imports and such like, because we think that these things, especially when personal changes in the NPO, they tend to break. Furthermore, we think timing is crucial in pushing the data to Salesforce, right? You may have things like follow-up communications, transactional email confirmations sent through Salesforce. And so our implementation is event-based and real-time. We then try, the third pillar here is a measured approach between tailored touch points with acknowledging the specific business process underlying a certain touch point. That may be a thing like a tablet fundraising app or a donation form on your website, or a peer-to-peer application. Finding a good solution here was a common data model where partners and customers can really rely on certain data points always being present in the implementation. If you move on one further, Gregor. So last but not least, as a payment facilitator, our infrastructure is a high availability infrastructure where our availability stats currently are, I think, higher than Google's given the outage earlier this year. And we design our processes so that we harden our processes so that they really cannot break, right? Redundancy measures to pick up in the case of an outage, or and automated retry mechanisms. So just what does it look like in practice, right? On the left-hand side here, you may have some sort of donation form, client application, such as a tablet fundraising app, a peer-to-peer application, or just a generic API client. And that interacts with the RaiseNow payment gateway, where we act as a payment facilitator and basically provide an abstraction layer to various payment service providers, such as Adyen, Ingenico, Fairgive, SaferPay, and so on and so forth. So those payment service providers actually interact with the acquiring partners, who then pay out the money to the nonprofit. So RaiseNow never sees any of these funds. And then we interact with Salesforce to translate the transaction data set into the corresponding objects in Salesforce. So mainly in today's case, a recurring donation according to the NPSP data model. But if we look at the installment process, especially for recurring donations, then you would also have an automated handling of installments, where RaiseNow charges the underlying payment method according to the defined payment schedule, interacts with the payment service provider independently of the donor, of course, and again, the NPO receives the money through the acquiring partner, and records in Salesforce are updated accordingly. And yeah, just really briefly to leave some time at the end for questions. Basically, in the direct debit process, RaiseNow cuts out the middleman. There we act as our own payment service provider, providing payment initiation files and cash management processing to Salesforce.
Thanks, Jens. So now, how could that look in real life and practice? We've put together a little user journey to illustrate how tools work together. It's the journey of a person called Anton, and it starts with Anton subscribing for a recurring donation on a website. and then the credit card is charged during some months, but at a certain point in time, Anton stops interacting with the digital content. So we record the fact that he stopped interacting, which leads us to the point where his retention score, which is calculated automatically, drops below a certain threshold. And this is the point where we can start interacting with a targeted communication through the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. From there, we can, for example, send Anton a postcard using the Optimize add-on, because we want to try to reach out through a physical channel to gain his attention. Unluckily, that doesn't help too much, and the next charge of the credit card fails. But we have a second safety net. We can use this information to first send an email with a personalized link. This means that he will get a link with a pre-filled form, so that he just needs to enter his new payment data, so that we make the process as smooth and easy as possible. If that still doesn't help, we can trigger a telemarketing campaign and see if we can convince Anton for a nice conversation to get back on track and continue his support for our organization. Now let's see what this would look like in our tools. So as said, we start with the donation form. This is an embedded form from RaiseNow. It's a payment, a donation form embedded in a WordPress environment. And as you can see here in our website backend, we can configure the form, adding the different payment intervals, payment amounts, and so on. And we can also add metadata, which is not shown directly in the form, but which is passed through the Salesforce connector from RaiseNow. So for instance, here we can add a campaign ID, which will then be reflected with the donation within Salesforce. So I'm going to quickly create a transaction. And this is now passed over to RaiseNow, to the payment layer first, and then to the middle layer. And from there it will go to the Salesforce MPNSP demo installment.
What this would look like is in Salesforce. Right, so here we just saw popping up the donation Gregor just created. So as I said, we integrate with the NPSP data model. So in the context of NPSP, a one-off donation is made up of a contact, right? We see here, we have Gregor's contact details within the Salesforce data model, within the Salesforce NPSP data model. And Gregor has a new opportunity here, according to the donation he entered on the website. This, by the way, is a really nice new addition. The cover the fee amount is a nice mechanism to earn your customers somewhere in between 2 and 9%, according to your configuration details. But we see somewhere between 2 and 9% additional revenue based on that feature alone. And then, as Gregor pointed out, we have here the link to the campaign, and we also have the payment method or the NPSP payment linked here. Right? Yeah. Switching over to the user story Gregor introduced earlier. What would that look like in a recurring context? We have prepared a data set here because we obviously need some history right? So we have here a recurring donation for Anton, right? Our contact who was created just as you saw in the other example. But if we look at the opportunities here in the enhanced recurring donation module, we see actually, okay, we have a opportunity history of several opportunities that were already won. And then as Gregor introduced, we start losing Anton, right? We start, charges start failing. And now Marketing Cloud kicks in and tries to first fight the attrition that occurs before the charge is lost. And then at some point when the charge is lost, escalates and tries to really recuperate that recurring donation. So let's look at Marketing Cloud.
Right. Yes. So basically what we do is, first of all, to get the data from MPSP through the standard connector of Marketing Cloud. So we go here through the data sources, and we have the synchronization in place for the different entities from MPSP. Then as a second thing, we've created some data extensions. For instance, we have one for the demo today, which just groups some information from MPSP and some data from the Marketing Cloud through SQL, through Automation Studio, so that we have everything in place in one data extension that we can use to manage our journeys. Of course, the journeys are created in the Journey Builder. So here we have a first one. As you remember, in our user story, we will trigger a journey based on a retention score. So here we have the journey scheduled to check each day which contacts have a retention score below 30, and that will kick off our journey. And then, as said, we try to reach out through other channels than email. As a first step, we will send a postcard using the Optimize add-on. So here we can just, I've prepared some visuals, some creatives that we can add to our journey. As a second step, we can add Anton to an audience and try to maybe reach out through Facebook ads in order to gain his attention. Then we can wait some time and hopefully he will re-engage with our email content. So we will send a little survey. And as you can see, this survey contains some information that we try to gather in order to make this data actionable in the journey. So for instance, as you can see here, we could ask something like, how would you rate the impact of our work? Or what could we do better in order to identify what's the current perception of our organization, but also what are potential fields of interest of Anton. All answers are stored in the same data extension. So then we can make use of this data. For example, we could check, we could try to sort out those contacts who say we have a low impact, and these would ring an alarm bell, and we would instantly send them to a telemarketing campaign because it's probably those which are most at risk. The other ones could potentially get some success stories. For example, here, if somebody answered that he's interested in our rescue ships, we could send an email about our rescue ships in action, or if not, it could be something around turtle protection. The sky is the limit. We can add as many content and steps within this journey as we want. So that's the first piece of our follow-up. As said, we also have something in place in case that the payment fails. And this is our second journey, our failed donation follow-up, which is also triggered through the data extension. So as you can see here, our filter criteria will be, is the stage closed lost? As said, RaiseNow is using the NPSP data model, so closed lost would mean that the payment failed. Here, we would first give some time to wait and check if there possibly was a successful donation in the meantime. So here again, we can check on the data which we get from NPSP. Has there been a successful transaction? And if not, we will continue our journey. And here we can send a follow-up email. And as I said during the presentation previously, we will include a personalized link. A personalized link means that we have stored the subscription token from RaiseNow within the Marketing Cloud. The subscription token is that piece of information which refers to the recurring donation. So if we select a contact here, you can see that each contact has a unique subscription token, which is stored within the Marketing Cloud. Now I can select this test contact, and if I hit this button, the subscription token is automatically added to the URL, which then means that a form is loaded where we can see the yearly amount, we can see the donation purpose, and here we can also update the payment method. So Anton could just click on this link, select which type of payment method he wants to use, add his new information, store that information, and these will automatically be pushed back through RaiseNow to NPSP. And from there, obviously, to the Marketing Cloud. Then again, we could add a wait step and check if, and try to filter out those contacts who successfully updated their recurring donation. And for those who did not, we can add some additional follow-up steps. For instance, we could check, do we have a mailing address and the phone number of the contact? And if yes, we can send another direct mail. Here, possibly, we could add a specific payment method. So here you can see the payment slip, which is a very common payment method in Switzerland. But of course, that can also be personalized and targeted to other countries. Then we could add another waiting step and also let Anton enter a telemarketing campaign, which I think is a very nice opportunity to follow up, and maybe during the phone conversation also ask something, hey, did you get our letter and our direct mail, and what about renewing your recurring donation, and so on and so forth. So here again, I think the sky is the limit. There's so many possibilities of what can be done within the Marketing Cloud. Now, what are the key takeaways from today?
Right. So yeah, obviously recurring donations are our clients' gold. Those are the most, in the long run, especially if they already exist, the most cost-effective source of revenue for NPOs. And yeah, we have to support our clients in implementing measures against attrition, and which will pay for itself in the long run, right? So that's the first part. As we've outlined, we believe that automation is key, especially if you want to do these sorts of things at scale and over time, right? If you have changing staff and so on and so forth, and if you have a large number of supporters that you want to reach. And lastly, A unified representation of the data is crucial for implementation partners to actually be able to develop these complex processes, not only for one client, but across multiple clients, so that you can also scale within your business.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. And Sisu, do we have any questions?
I have one. So first of all, thank you very much, guys, for that. So the question I've got here is, what is the most common challenge that you guys have faced in getting organizations up and running with this level of data-driven automation?
One thing that we often see is that first they wait quite a long time before they want to start. And then when they decide to start, they want to do basically everything at once. Which then leads them to do nothing. So I think one important pick, what we've learned in the last years is that it makes sense to start with a very concrete use case to well, basically get things down to earth and have a project to work on. Of course, you need to do some basics within that project, but it really helps to get the client aligned with the agency and all the other providers. And also to get a quick first success case, which also convinces the board and the managers to invest more in data-driven fundraising.
And do you find that most of your customers understand attrition, and the dollar amount or the euro amount associated with failing to prevent attrition? Is that something you're having to educate them on, or is it usually quite clear by the time they come to you?
No, it's interesting because it's not something digital fundraisers think very much about, but like the classic fundraisers are really into it because they've built a loyal donor base over decades. So for them, it's logical that that attrition is a very important indicator, and it's basically where the money comes from. So especially if you think about direct debit installments, they have huge amounts coming in each month. So even if you only optimize by like 1%, 2%, or 3%, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and Richard just made a very noteworthy comment. I'm amazed at how accepting some charities are of low retention numbers.
Yeah.
Great. If anyone has any last minute questions, we've got 2 minutes before we close. But there's definitely a couple of topics that I think we should take to Discord, predominantly why digital fundraisers aren't as concerned. I think for me, that's quite alarming. It's the one group of, fundraisers I thought would be would be very understanding of the attrition problem and why that's, absolutely crucial. So if we have no more questions, I've got one quick announcement. At 2:30 today, so in 2 hours from now, so 2:30 UK time, is the EMEA Award ceremony. Please do not miss it. If for no other reason than to see what Mark Schumacher would be wearing, please attend that session. And Gregor, Jens, thank you very much for this session. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure you're okay if they follow up with you on Discord, or they'll reach out to you direct.
Sure.
Great.
I'll be
Thank you very much.
available online for the rest of the day. See you guys.
Thank you
very much. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.